Michigan music lovers. This is Scott Baker, musician, music journalist, and producer, welcoming you to the Michigan Music History Podcast, covering all the territories of the Mitten. We cast from around the block of the brand new Michigan Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Bay City, Michigan, in the heart of the Great Lakes Bay region. And I'm joined by Michigan music royalty, sitting to the left and right, Dr. J. Gary Johnson of the Michigan Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and MichiganRockandRollLegends.com website, and Sir Fred Reif, Michigan music author, publisher, manager, and musician. Together they have taught, lectured, traveled, hosted, and have been quoted worldwide on all things Michigan music. Chances are you stood next to them at the record store or shoulder to shoulder at concerts over the years. They are the record crate diggers and the library microfishermen that have dug around for the details, the credits, and the lineage that has been part of the backstory of Michigan music. So grab your favorite beverage, hit the cruise, and take a trip back with us as we open up a can of earworms on Michigan's rich music history.
Welcome to the Michigan Music History Podcast Show, channeling through all styles and eras of Michigan music, from before you were born up through this very minute. And now, your host, Scott Baker.
We're back for part 2 of our interview with Gary Asel, along with Dr. J and Sir Fred. Going to knock out some more of the venues and dances and halls that made the popular circuit back in the day. Once again, we want to thank Gary Asel for coming out and being with us, and Gary's going to be a guest host again with us down the line. He is part of the team, and we're so thankful to have him. And as we get ready to enjoy part 2 and wrap up the session, we have an upcoming podcast, the Reggae Michigan podcast, with David Asher joining us, and he has a brand new album out. David is formerly of The Process, and he's going to be bringing in some information on what he's been doing, what's changed, what's the same, and where reggae can be found in Michigan. And we hope that you'll join us for all that. In the meantime, let's wrap up episode 2, take it back to Studio 163 in Essexville with our friends Dr. J, Sir Fred, Gary Asel, and myself. And thank you again to Alan Garcia for the studio time. And we are back.
Were Teagarden and Van Winkle part of the Rationals?
No.
They teamed up.
One of them
Bob
just
Seger.
passed away.
Yeah, I did see that because they ended up in Seeger's Bullet Band, did they not?
Yeah.
Well, no, this was before the Silver Bullet Band.
Okay.
He was
System?
well, it was after the System, and he was kind of going solo, and he I'm trying to think the name of the album they put out that was kind of an acoustic album.
Yeah, to the Teagarden and Van Winkle album?
No,
You're talking about the Seeger album, that's the collectible one.
Yeah, that is probably pretty collectible.
Early Morning or Morning something.
The Teagarden and Winkle one is smoking OPs.
Yeah.
Right.
But this is the one before that.
New Mornings. Or
Yeah, there it is. Good
That's
morning.
it, yeah.
And I don't know. There's a real good book on Sherwood Forest and Peter C. Kavanaugh. Have you guys read that?
No.
It's called Local DJ.
No,
Oh man, this guy's got so many stories. And he was talking. He related how Seeger and Teagarden and Van Winkle got together. And this was, they had advertised Bob Seger at one of these Wild Wednesdays at Sherwood Forest, and the crowd expected Bob Seger to be rocking.
Oh, okay.
Not out there with an acoustic guitar.
Sure.
And so they were, I guess, according, again, this is coming from Kavanaugh, they were polite during the first few songs, but pretty soon they were yelling out rock and roll, so on and so forth.
2 plus 2.
So, anyways, Kavanaugh claims that he went over to Teagarden and Van Winkle, who were on the second stage, and told them, and he got with Punch Andrews, and they kind of came in and sat in with Bob.
Oh, okay.
And, of course, kicked things up a little bit there.
Interesting.
And then that started the relationship. Then I saw them. They played at the John Lennon, I shouldn't say the John Lennon, the John Sinclair, Free John Sinclair rally.
The one that Lennon came in for?
Yeah,
I was
Chrysler
there.
Arena. And did you stick to the end?
The very end.
Yeah, so did we. Lynn was.
Well, he didn't come on till like 2 in the
I
morning.
know Lynn was like 7 months pregnant.
Really?
And, we're just, come on, John, come on. We've been here all night long. So finally, we got to see him. He came on, only did about 20 minutes or so, but did get to see him. And, but yeah, we remember that one very well.
With David Peel.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you brought that up before.
Yeah. What was the name of David Peel's band?
I can't think of it, but I remember
right.
he did a song called Bob Dylan, Robert Zimmerman, and he just kept repeating that.
Great.
Yeah, was it the lower third? Was that it?
Yeah, I think that's
David
it.
Peel in the lower third. Yeah, I don't know how Lennon got hooked up with those guys, but
Now, going back to the Tea Garden Van Winkle story, you were just saying, you said a venue. Was it the Forest or the
Sherwood Forest.
Okay, where was that at?
It's in Davison.
Okay, so that was another one that comes up
and
on
they
our
had,
storyline today.
Real, in the summertime, they could play outside and they would be quite large, but there was also a lodge. And so in the wintertime, they could have smaller shows in the lodge. And I don't know if there's anything there at all.
I have no idea. I never went to a show at Sherwood Forest.
I didn't either.
I just never went.
But I highly recommend this book, Local DJ, by Peter C. Kavanaugh.
seen it.
I'll find it.
Oh, you love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll find it. I will.
It's great.
So we got to get some people to give us some memories of Sherwood Forest, and
Yeah.
that'd be pretty cool.
Well, there's a lot of cool venues out there. When you were talking about, these different teen gathering spots around the state, a guy had written me a while back about one called the Mump.
A mump.
You ever heard of that? MUMMP?
Nope. Don't
No.
know that
Okay,
one.
this has got to be the weirdest shaped teen nightclub of all time. It was a geodesic dome.
Okay.
And it was located in the Northland Shopping Center. And when Northland opened, which I think was in the early 50s or mid 50s, was really the first shopping center. I think one of the very first shopping centers in the United States. It was covered by everything. I remember my parents taking me, we took a big trip.
12 Mile Road,
Northland.
right? Is that 12 Mile Road?
Yeah. It's in,
Okay.
what is now Southfield, I think, is where it was located.
Okay.
And so a couple years after it opened, they had an outdoor playhouse called the Northland Playhouse. And then, they had that playhouse was blown down a couple times because of high winds. So they installed a geodesic dome
Good.
to give it stability. And they had some big name people that would come in there and do, it was sort of like summer stock.
Okay.
I know, I think my parents went to see Cesar Romero and Red Buttons, and Mae West even appeared there in some production. So all this was going on, but by about 1964, I guess they had mosquito problems and various things like this, and it closed, and a jeweler from Detroit by the name of High Weinstein, he and a partner rented it and turned it into a teen club.
No kidding.
And when he apparently, according to the story, and I talked to his son, he said when he took his family to see it, and they saw the geodesic dome, his daughter said, "Well, it looks like a mump," which was her term for a pimple. Oh, and so he thought, that sounds like a pretty good name. So he just added a second M or a third M, I guess you could say.
Right.
And so it became the Mump. But this guy, he put in a state-of-the-art sound system. He had a revolving stage.
Wow. Killer.
So that when one band played, the other band was setting up behind.
On the backside.
And it turned right around and was all psychedelic, color scheme, I guess, and so on and so forth. And it was a real big deal. It opened right around the same time as the Grandy did
What?
No,
in
no kidding.
1966.
66, okay. And
Yep. And I guess they coexisted. There was covered, stories in the Detroit News, and I was
Sure.
They even
You had the Grandy for the city kids and the mump for the suburb kids, I'm sure.
It even had a pictorial in Life magazine showing a scene inside the Mump.
wow.
But, okay, by 1968, he also said the riots in Detroit hurt it a little bit. Yeah. Things weren't quite the same after the riots. But he said what hurt it was, as more publicity got out there about the drug scene and more kids using drugs, that the powers at Northland that were renting the geodesic dome didn't want the negative publicity.
Right.
And so that's how the mump closed.
All of a year.
Yeah, well, it lasted, I think, maybe 2 years, maybe a little under 2 years. But it was a big venue. According to the newspaper reports, on opening night, they had 1,600 kids in there.
No kidding.
That's one venue I've never heard of this whole time until tonight.
And, big name bands playing there, Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. And
what was the other one? The Hideout?
There
were a number of those, I think, weren't there?
Well, the Hideout was so famous because of it being the birthplace of
the label.
The Hideout label, but also like the two bands that formed SRC, the Chosen Few and the Fugitives. They started there. Glenn Fry,
Rationals,
with the Mushrooms, and he started there. Susie Quattro and the Pleasure Seekers started there. Of course, Bob Seger, Bob Seger and the Last Church. So
were there were multiple hideouts, you said, Fred?
Yeah,
I think they were all over, Detroit area.
So it was Detroit based.
The first one.
I don't know how many there were,
but they were out of Detroit.
Right.
Or
mostly in the suburbs.
Right.
The first hideout was an old VFW that Dave Leone and Punch Andrews, Bob Seger's longtime manager. Yeah. They were partners in this thing, and then it expanded on. I'm trying to think where that city was, which Detroit suburb it is at. Mm-hmm. It's gone.
It's just like Daniel's Den. It was the name was kind of franchised out. I think there was like 4 or 5 Daniel's Dens.
Well,
there?
That's what I just learned that not too long ago. There was one in Owasso, I think.
Yeah, there's one in Alpena.
And we played the one at Fruitville.
Yep. Well, even Band Canyon expanded out. They had a Band Canyon in Petoskey.
Yep.
Oh,
really?
And I remember when the Band Canyon changed its name to the Foxy Lady.
Yeah, the Lady.
Saw the Stooges there when they were the Foxy Lady.
Now, was the Band Canyon open the same time as the Sound Lounge?
No, it was afterward.
That's what I was thinking, because the Sound Lounge, I never went to it because I was a little too young.
Sound Lounge was where?
That
was
River Road. Further down.
You mentioned that last week. Okay.
Yeah, further down from Band
It used to be the Parkway, and it used to be a nightclub that had a lot of, like T-Bone Walker played there, and Count Basie, and a lot of
fantastic
bands.
Yeah, it was probably about halfway between Saginaw and Bay City, wouldn't you think, on River Road?
I'm still trying to find the exact spot.
I know you had to go down. You had to drive down.
Okay.
Too cool.
Off the road.
Never went there. Too young, I guess.
Yeah, but it was a big,
just a little bit younger.
I remember it was kind of a long brick building, sort of.
Uncle Don Andrews was the DJ
but there were a lot of kids there. There was a lot of room, dancing and so on. But, the interesting thing about Band Canyon, though, we talk about all these, and of course we're just scratching the surface on all the venues around Michigan. But the Band Canyon, as far as I know, is the only teen nightclub that was actually built from the ground up to be a teen nightclub.
Oh.
Everything, you think Daniel's Den was a theater.
Right.
The Blue Light was an old KFC hall. The Wyagogo was the Wise Gym.
Okay.
That the one I wish I knew a little bit more about is the Edgar Allan Poe Club.
Where's that?
Holland, which was an old funeral home.
Really?
Well, you remember how big Vincent Price was, and all the Edgar Allan Poe movies in the 60s.
Holland, Michigan.
Wow.
Holland, Michigan. And apparently they had a room upstairs called the Raven Room.
Nice.
And I don't know if that's where you could, because some of these places like Band Canyon had a room where it was kind of off the dance floor and so on, where you could socialize. The gossip room, I think they called it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's what the Raven Room was. There's very little information about it.
There's another one for everybody listening out there that can get us some information
Tell us about
on
the Edgar Allan Poe Club.
And how in Michigan.
But Band Canyon built from the ground up to be a teen nightclub. And there were, when they opened, the Bay City Times did a full page ad, and it had pictures of the various, they had the room that had the pool tables and pinball machines, the dance floor, the snack bar, the gossip room, and they had pictures of each one of these before it opened. So there were no kids in there, so you could actually see it. Oh, I would love to get my hands on those
Freddie Cannon
pictures.
the opening?
He was. Freddie Cannon opened it up.
So this is
Do you
one
know
for
what
the
year?
library microfiche.
1965.
65. Okay.
July, I think it was the July 4th weekend, maybe they opened up.
So they were open before the Roll Air rink?
No, Roll-Air was.
Okay.
That was they got their idea. I think everybody, when you start seeing 2,000 kids show up, even if you're only charging 25 cents or 50 cents or something like that, that's a lot of money back in those days coming your way.
Yeah, the roller skating rink was just there, supported by state park traffic, was what it was. The
People
state
wanted to go
park
by the
back
water.
then was just smoking as far as people there. The water was clean. Campground was always full. And that roller rink you'd see 50 people skating there every night of the week, maybe more.
Well, and then you had the putty golf on the other side.
In Tony's Park, across the
Tony's
street,
Park
the
across the
arcade
street,
and the roller coaster and all that stuff was there.
What I found fantastic was he was saying last, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago when we had our last one, he said, you guys not only went there just to see the music or whatever, but you walk in circles in groups. And
We did that at all the dances.
Yeah.
That's all you did.
It was
I'm
a big
like,
social
wow.
thing.
Yeah, they weren't even dances anymore by then. You were just hanging out, going to a show, mingling, socializing was all you were doing.
The music was your soundtrack.
Yeah, nobody danced per se anymore.
They
I
just
think
hung out.
that stopped like 65, 66, it seems.
Well, at least in the outdoor places.
Yes.
I think at Band Canyon, they had more of a traditional dance floor.
Yeah.
And there was more dancing going on there.
Right.
But yeah, Roll-Air was just like this big milling crowd.
Sure.
But it was fun. It was a great time. Summer in Michigan, beautiful. nights.
Every Tuesday night out there. In fact, you mentioned earlier the Detroit riots. I remember being at Roll Air. It was the day after the riots had started in Detroit, or a couple of days after, and the rumor went around Roll Air that Saginaw was burning.
Well, everybody was on edge during that. I remember everybody thinking
it was huge.
cars were going to be coming to Bay City, and Molotov cocktails. And
Yeah.
there was just the rumor mill was going wild. And this was before the internet.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
It was the tin can telephone. It was like, all right, it came to us like that.
Yeah.
Now, when you were saying that the venue on River Road, when they became the Foxy.
Became the Foxy Lady.
Okay, what year was that?
I'd guess
Early 70s?
69.
late
I'm
60s.
thinking, well, it's definitely was 68 because I'm trying to think.
You said the Stooges
when
were
the
there.
big bust was. That was the
Was it
fall.
still a teen club?
Well, it's no longer a club. It was just a venue. Just you didn't pay dues like the teens club was, but it was still.
No, I mean,
Oh, it was still putting on rock and roll acts. It's like you said.
I don't
that's where
remember
I
the
saw it.
Foxy Lady.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
well, it
it.
was just I think they paint it or they painted
Oh
a
yeah,
sign. or
yeah. The
something.
sign had psychedelic swirls on it.
Yeah.
They updated. It was remember the Summer of Love happened on the West Coast in 1967. It took till 1969 for it to happen here.
There you go. You heard it. That's
It was-
the realistic.
2 hours of travel for the Summer of Love, or 2 years of travel for it to get to the Midwest, and it happened. 1969. Everything seemed to really blow up. A lot of stuff changed. I'm
Well,
sure
a lot
that's
of-
when I saw the Stooges.
A
at
lot of
Foxy
festivals
Lady. Yes.
in '69. Well, you talk about Delta, and then they had the Bay City had the first Michigan pop festival, and that's the one that you were talking about where Rush was there.
Okay.
The Rush with Ricky
Okay.
Farner.
Okay. That's great to clarify that.
Yeah, and
'cause
by 70, it was Goose Lake and you
Yeah.
know, big festivals
Yeah,
then.
definitely.
there's quite a cool little bit of photos going around Ron Domilishi's page. You know, he put so often he'll put in Michigan bands and their birthdays and all those international kind of touring photos from down south part of the state, that Goose Lake and stuff, and it's just fantastic seeing.
Yeah, that guy's. I don't know how he gets access to all that stuff. It's amazing.
I would love to talk to him for a show if I can get a hold of him. He'd be great here today too. He's got a lot of info on the back history of all that stuff, especially down that way.
It was a great time to be here. That's all there was to it. And you know what had a lot to do with it too is, of course, we've all read about all of a sudden kids our age, we all had some money where nobody before us, they didn't have expendable income where we did. We had a little bit, we were a little bit privileged, had money to spend, but also the recording industry, the improvements made in recording techniques and in the hi-fi equipment you could buy to play it on. The sound quality improved so much in just a matter of 4 or 5 years. I think that had a lot to do with that whole explosion.
Yeah.
Was the quality of
that
sound.
makes sense. Hot Rats Zappa came out in 70, and that was the first 16-track recorded record, I think.
Really?
So, I mean, they just went from 4 to 8 at the end of the Beatles there.
Sure.
And Beach Boys, and by then everything, you can hear it. You go back to those early Cream albums, they sound like they're recorded, all of them had this, and then all of a sudden, by 70, everything's clarifying itself, and by the end of the decade, that's when they were just advancing on their techniques.
The sound quality just exploded.
When they had the quad albums and the...
I sold quadraphonic stuff.
Me too. There were 2 kinds, I think.
Yeah, SQ and CD4. Yes.
Nice. Fred, you had a lot of them going through the record store back in the day?
Oh, yeah. And they'd bring them back because it wouldn't play on theirs or something. I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you had the wrong encoding system, because there's Pioneer and Sansui went whole hog with CD4, and Fisher and Magnavox, I think, went with SQ. It was just like beta VHS.
Yeah,
it was the same thing. A couple companies got behind one, a couple companies got behind the other, and in Quad's case, it just killed it. It just went away, went back to stereo until 5.1, until the surround sound stuff.
That's true, though. I mean, you think the sound boom to that period, a lot of that was a big blow up.
I grew up listening to a lot of swing music and stuff that my mother had, and the recording quality was horrible. It really was. It was great music, Benny Goodman and all that. It was awesome music, but the sound quality was awful compared to the stuff.
And a lot of
listened to them.
That was all mono too.
Yeah. The mono wasn't so bad.
No, mono's not so bad. That's true.
I've got a mono white album that I just love.
No, mixed them differently.
I have a photo in my first book of a Columbia record studio in Chicago. This was Gerald Marx's band recording, and they're all playing this huge
microphone,
boom mic.
No, a thing that megaphone.
Okay,
and they're playing into that.
Wow, like the RCA,
right?
Victor dog,
Nipper the dog.
So it's a really neat picture, and
wow.
They're all around playing into
that. Yes.
Wow. Incredible. Yes. I've seen that. That was in the first book.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I want to bring up too, before, I know we're getting a little long in the tooth here, but this has been a wonderful episode, and we could do a lot more on this. But one of my favorite stories, Gary, of you is saying, "Man, we went to so many shows back in the day." And I quote you all the time on this one. We went down to Ohio to see a concert. And you know what? How many times can you see Grand Funk Railroad? Who's the first band we see when we get to Ohio? Grand Funk Railroad.
That was all the way to Atlanta, Georgia.
That was Georgia.
My
okay.
brother lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and in the summer of 1970, it was just before my senior year, Bob Hogan and I went down and spent 6 weeks living with my brother in Atlanta, and we went to the Atlanta International Pop Festival.
I screwed that one up in my mind then.
It was huge. There's all these
Too
people.
Cool.
And the opening band was Grand Funk Railroad.
And not even on the poster. But that was their breakout moment.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Actually, there's some video.
I think it's on YouTube. Yeah.
They shot, the intent was maybe to make a movie like Woodstock.
Okay.
And so there actually is some footage of Grand Funk
I'll be
in their
darned.
opening
I was
set.
there.
Yeah.
You were like,
I was so disappointed. Another really cool story, though. The second band was supposed to be Mountain, okay, and they did the rotating stage thing too. But Mountain was a little bit late, and they said, "We've got a local Georgia band going to entertain you first." And Dwayne was still alive. It was all the
look at that. Chills.
yeah. That was between Grand Funk and Mountain. This local band.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Very cool.
No,
Crazy.
that would have been
Summer of 70.
70. Because the year before, grandma wouldn't let you
Grandma
go to
wouldn't let me
Woodstock.
go to Woodstock. No, I was only
Get a ticket.
I was only 16. Oh man, yeah. Pete and I both had access to tickets.
Did you keep your ticket?
No,
Well,
somebody else used it.
we
good.
drove all the way there, but we made the mistake of, we had a couple friends who worked second shift at Chevy, and we weren't that fired up about seeing the Friday lineup. It was the folk
Sure, yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
We wanted to see the rock and roll acts. So the plan was, as soon as they got out of work, at second shift, I should say, they say third shift. Anyways, they got out at, I don't know, it was 11 o'clock or something like that. We were all set to go. Man, we were on the road, drove all night.
Sure.
And of course, by that time, we're hearing reports on the radio, what's going on at Woodstock.
Oh, yeah.
And geez, it sounds awful crowded in there. And, the cars are backed up and so on. So we got within about 40 miles and the state police were out. You're not going any further.
You could did
You know,
you make it at all or no?
No, we said, we've got it doesn't matter. You're not going.
And you didn't need them anyway
Yeah,
by that
that's
point.
right.
We just went. Judy and I did.
But I did send them in and I got refunded.
Oh, no kidding.
There's a story.
They'd be worth so much more
I
now.
know it. I'm thinking, why didn't I keep those tickets? But at the time, I was really pissed off.
Judy and I just
Because we
visited.
drove.
Yeah, we just visited the museum in
Is that pretty good?
2018. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, Lynn and I are going to make sure we're going to hit
do
that too.
go. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Right.
And then we went on
Woodstock Museum?
the Woodstock Museum
In Woodstock, New York?
It's not in
Okay.
Woodstock.
It's not the Bearsville thing.
It's in Bethel. Yeah,
It's in Bethel.
Woods. It's
Okay.
in Bethel Woods.
Okay.
We camped at a little campground that must have been overrun with hippies in 1969, but we went on a Sunday. There was hardly anybody there. And there's a group of maybe 50 people going through, and of course they have their tour guides. They're leading you through. And I said to Judy, "Come on, let's just hang in the back till we lose these people, and then we can just wander around the grounds." My wife actually smuggled home a great big rock from the stage area. It sits on our front porch up north now, but we just wandered all around the grounds. Just, I don't even know what we were doing, reveling in memories of some sort,
Certainly.
Yeah, it was the end of an era, I think, but
How about you, Fred? Did you make it that far? Or no?
No, but I did go to the Toronto Pop Festival.
did you really?
And everyone was there, from Sly and the Family Stone to the band to...
Is that the one where Alice killed the chicken?
They were at the show, but I don't remember that.
It was an
that's
accident.
where-
He
that's
didn't do
where
it on purpose.
That's where the
audience.
story started.
Yeah.
Well, John Lennon, did you see Lennon perform?
No,
the
that was
plastic-
a different one.
Oh, that wasn't where they
No.
recorded
With Zappa?
Well, not the one I was at.
the live album. Okay.
the live, Peace Live.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I remember Steppenwolf, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Everybody who was big at that time was there.
Yeah, poor Alice got the blame for killing the chicken, and all he did was throw it in the audience, and the audience ripped it up. I watched a great interview with him and
There's footage of it.
Dan Rather. Yeah, they done a big interview with Dan
Yeah,
Rather.
that's great.
They had footage of the
Yeah.
audience ripping that chicken up. We saw Alice Cooper at John Glenn High School my senior year.
Yeah.
And he ended the show with the pillows, the
Right.
feathered pillows. And, for years later, I directed there in the summer.
You could still find feathers.
We
yeah.
installed these huge subwoofers in the back of the stage when we did Wizard of Oz to make the storm feel real, the tornado. And when we fired those subs up, more feathers had come down from the ceiling. And it was 35 years later, and there were still feathers coming.
Amazing.
Yeah, I remember they played there right when I'm 18.
Yeah,
was
yeah. Oh, it's just breaking.
starting to become a big hit. Yeah.
So another Cooper show in Bay City. I think somebody told me there's a stab mark in the stage there from this day from where he pierced it.
Wouldn't surprise
And it's
me.
circled or something like this is Alice's knife or how that cracks me
Wow.
up. But yeah, too cool.
Yeah.
Well, they had played at Roll Air before that.
Yep.
So they were really unknown at that point. And a guy gave me a photograph of Alice Cooper performing at Roll Air, which was kind of a
Wow.
Really?
photo. Yeah, I
Now
just
they-
scanned it. I don't own the photograph.
Right.
But
Was that going to be up in the Hall of Fame then?
I was thinking that probably would be a good one to have up there.
Yeah,
you know.
I think so.
I
But
haven't.
there's so little. We were talking about, you'd like to see some video. There is no video. And, a lot of Bob Darby's photographs, they didn't write the names of the bands behind the photographs. And a lot of those were lost in a fire. And Fred, you got a hold of some of that stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's no names on the back.
Yeah.
So I've got to figure out who these bands are.
I don't.
And
good
most
luck.
of the photos are the bands that won the contest that week or that
Right.
month or something.
Right.
Well,
But they don't say who they are, and
Oh,
I
that's a
figured out some of
shame.
them so far.
Yeah, the one that I had, and I didn't realize it, was when Question Mark and the Mysterians came in third place in the finals. And I had never seen a picture of Larry Borges, who was the original
right.
bass player in the band. But Larry went up to get the trophy, and there's a picture of him and the band that finished second as a Bay City band. Most of the guys were from St. Hyacinths and St. Stans, were called the Mustangs. And
I have that picture then.
yeah,
The Mustangs.
and Charlie Kazmierski was there from the Mustangs, and then the winning band was the Motor City Bonnevilles.
Right.
Okay, and so you've got that one. That one's up on. I can't remember what webpage or what story on my page. I think it was the one where I wrote about the.
I think it's the same picture.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I guess before we leave too, I wanted to bring this up and I forgot about it. Did any of you guys get to go out to Tuscola when that management was out there that brought in the fake zombies with ZZ Top guys and it's where Grand Funk met and all that? Did they put on anything around town, or did they promote themselves with any kind of concerts at all?
Well, I know Delta Promotions had a big show at the Saginaw Auditorium that was headlined by Question Mark and the Mysterians, but this was just Question Mark. It was none of the other Mysterians. And the first group of fake zombies, this was the group that had Frank Beard and Dusty Hill in it from ZZ Top.
Okay.
They played as the zombies. And Dick Rabbit, do you remember these guys? They were the three Thayer brothers. They had a power trio, and they opened up. The Thayers were kind of famous because they were arrested in the first big marijuana bust in Bay City, and actually got their pictures in the paper. And that's what I think prompted Delta Promotions to move out to Tuscola Road.
Really?
Because they were in an office on Euclid that wasn't too far from the state police
post.
Didn't one of
That's
those guys
hilarious.
start Band Canyon? Or I could be
Yes,
wrong.
Willard Kehoe, who was the guy that was the head of Delta Promotions. He had quite a little gig going. He was partners with, trying to think I can't think of the guy's name right now, the other partner at Band Canyon. But Kehoe started Delta Promotions, and so he started using his company to book bands into Band Canyon. So he was getting a little slice of the pie there as well.
He was.
And he started managing. In fact, he managed the Del Reys, who turned into the Shepherds.
Right.
And it was actually Kehoe, I think, who got him the deal with Harry Bach in Detroit to record that one and only single, When Johnny Comes Marching Home, the folk rock version of that. So anyways, Kehoe was the head guy, and that whole Delta Promotions thing, that fake zombie story is...
That thing when it hit the internet, and it was on one of them online magazines that's nationally.
Right.
And when it came out, I'm like, really? Now, here's some stuff that I'd never talked to either of you about in my lifetime.
I worked with Daniel Ralston, who wrote the article, contacted me because he read something I had put down on the internet about the rumor that, some guys from ZZ Top were in the Zombies.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was, couldn't really corroborate.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, he came to town, and, we spent a weekend just digging around, and I uncovered this guy who worked for Kehoe, who lived over in Grand Rapids, and Daniel went out and interviewed him. But I mean, this guy, Daniel Ralston, I have to give him a lot of credit. He would not give up until he got some verification from somebody in ZZ Top. They didn't want to talk about it.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But we had the pictures, and there was absolutely no doubt that it was Frank Beard and Dusty Hill. So
unbelievable.
Anyways, they finally admitted it, and but I kept after the story because we didn't get a hold of the other band.
Weren't they XLs?
The
or part of
XLs, and trying to track those guys down, and I finally did. And of course, Daniel had already published his story by this time, but I just wanted to do the whole thing. Yeah. So anyways, I interviewed these guys and got their take on it and what happened to them. And they were the ones that really got caught in the crosshairs, because when Rolling Stone broke the story, they were on the road as the zombies, and they were named, in the Rolling Stone article. In fact, Kehoe himself admitted that it was the XLs. But the guys in ZZ Top had already gone back to Texas at this point, and Beard and Hill had got with Billy Gibbons, and I think ZZ Top had probably started by that time. But anyways, and then I found a little later on, I found out this other guy who had been the road manager for the Archies. This is what got Kehoe
Road manager, they toured?
Well, this is what got Kehoe in trouble. The Animals had broken up and the Zombies had broken up, and he kind of got away with putting these bands out saying, we have an original member and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But the Archies, they were a studio band, but, they were dealing with music that Don Kirshner was involved with, who was a real heavy hitter.
Yeah, you didn't want to mess with Kirshner. And he had all connections
with, Archie Comics. And so when they found out that Kehoe was doing this, Lawsuit City, Kehoe folded his tent, within a week.
A friend of mine, Tom Reinke, the late Tom Reinke, he worked for them.
Delta Promotions?
Was it in Bo's book?
I don't remember reading anything about that.
So it wasn't in there. Okay.
I don't think so. If it is, it escapes my memory, but
it originally
that's no surprise either.
Because
Bob Baldori, when I was doing a story on the Woolies for the Hall of Fame, he said that he was approached by representatives from Delta Promotions to go on the road as the Animals.
Really?
Because, of course, they had the keyboards.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what the ZZ Top guys, they were touring as the Zombies. They didn't even have a keyboard player. I mean, come on. I mean, Rod Urgent is the main guy of the group. So, anyways, there were just all these weird things. And this other guy who was a real big fan of Grand Funk Railroad, he had a copy of one of the really early issues of Cream magazine, and what was still like a newspaper.
Sure.
And they had a story about, it wasn't just in Rolling Stone, it was also in Cream magazine, about Delta Promotions and putting these groups on the road that weren't really the groups.
Right.
And they actually had a letter that Delta sent out, and this was for the animals. And so, you look at the letter, and they don't, they're just kind of
just
very
shy.
cleverly writing it so you think it is the animals. Saying, they had all these big hits, House of the Rising Sun, blah, 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 and,
Semantics.
all the things that, how their music has changed over the years.
Oh, yeah.
So
Was in that story? Was that picture of that letter in that story?
no, I
Okay.
found that's again one of the things just keeping.
I just remember seeing something.
Well,
of a photo.
the beauty, as we talked about the difference between writing a book and writing online is that, you can go back once it's online, you can change things.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I just kept adding to the story.
Beautiful.
Anything that I found. And, of course, if you make a mistake, and I've certainly done that numerous times, you can go back and correct it.
Good deal.
So I do like that aspect of
I've
it.
spent a sum of time on your site just since the first podcast. I didn't even know it was out there, and
really?
I've been reading a lot of your stuff.
Rock and roll legends.
The Frankie Lyman story is something I'm working on right now, and I've got 3 parts of that done, and there might be at least, I know there's at least 2, there might be 3 more parts. That is such an incredible story.
I can imagine.
And how this, this tombstone and how we got it to Bay City and so on.
That's something else.
Yeah, that's a work in progress.
But
So we did, and here's where the online gets to see the bonus stuff. But I'm going to cut in here where I would normally do an edit. You were talking about going to Toronto and seeing that festival. About what year?
I think it was the same year as Woodstock,
Okay.
69.
Okay, I didn't get
I know
a
it
year
was
on that.
before Woodstock.
Okay, now, and I know this is way later, but you went to Toronto, was it? And you ran to Richie Havens?
that was in Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Places,
Okay,
Cleveland.
here I am again.
Yeah.
I remember you did it though, and you ran to him in a hotel room.
Listen to him sing Pink Floyd's on the Turning Away in a hotel room.
This is just such a great random story.
in a room hardly any bigger than this. It was with Jim Banco was looking for, because he hires a lot of acts on the West Coast, and he was looking for folk acts at the time. And Richie Havens was there demoing some brand of guitar, was all he was doing. And you wandered around this hotel, there was different acts all over the place, and we just happened to wander into Richie Havens' room, and he broke into On the Turning Away.
So everybody just had their door open?
Yeah, the doors were open.
Wow,
All the
very cool.
elevators were all jammed up. There's hundreds of people running around this Hilton in downtown Cleveland. It was just a
When was that?
blast. Oh, long time ago. Got to be 25 years ago.
80s?
90s maybe.
90s.
Yeah.
Okay, because Ace and I were in Dunwell High School, but I remember this. You coming back saying you wouldn't believe what I saw.
I couldn't.
And what was that all about? I mean,
He was just demoing guitars, and it was.
But I mean, the whole hotel thing.
It was all full of folk acts showing. They were all just playing in their room, and these different promoters
gathering.
were wandering around, listening, sampling what they wanted. Jim hired like 5 different acts out of that weekend in Cleveland.
Wow.
It was pretty neat. And
Was that the Folk Alliance?
Yes, exactly. And then we met with Jim to San Diego for the Folk Alliance the next year, and then we went to Vancouver the next year. The neat thing was, because Jim he'd rent a suite, or his company would rent a suite, and Judy and I'd just pay for a plane ticket, and so staying was free. We just
so
stayed
cool.
with Jim. It was great, and in 3 wonderful cities: Cleveland, Vancouver, and San Diego. Are you kidding me? Yeah, we'll meet you there. Yeah.
Just a little touch outside of Michigan, but man, but some great stories of what you had.
It got us off the path again, didn't it?
But no, I wanted to hear that because I remember for some reason I remember you going to Toronto for something. But
No, we went to Toronto a number of times. Yeah.
Okay. I got so many memories of the stories, but it just
Well, heck, you grew up at our house.
Too cool. Well, I guess nowadays there's not a whole lot of, like you said, the venues that you had back in the day. But there are the little pushes in little towns and little independent radio stations and a million podcasts like this one. And I do want to say here in Bay City, Jeff Yance puts on, and Mike Bachelupo in the downtown put on the Mitten Music Festival, which is 4 floors or downstairs 2 rooms and upstairs 2 rooms that go on diagonally on and off when other bands start. Kind of like the story you had earlier, Fred, when you played back in the day, and it still brings back that vibe. And you can see some Michigan artists do that.
That was a blast.
And there we were supposed to have 2 shows last year, and COVID. So I've been helping out, and I've been on those bills myself. But it's nice to have those. It's like stepping back in time. At the same time, you're getting to see the current crowds and get to live that. And in the old Masonic building.
That venue is very mindful of those old venues. That old Masonic temple, the blue room there with the stage. That's about the same size as the dance floor and stage was at Daniel's Den. Of course, then there was the big raised area with the pool tables and everything, but just that type of venue is very mindful of those places.
That is a beautiful stage.
Yes.
At the Masonic. I love
and
going
even the Red Room's a nice little stage too. They're both laid out really, really nice.
That's a good spot.
Yes.
That vibe when you go there. And I released my first album there back in 2007 when I went solo. And I did it in the blue room there, now I've played in all of the billiards room and that little purple room upstairs.
Yeah,
it's a magic walk back in time to those venues that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's here in Bay City at the Masonic Temple.
And you got a group that's trying to keep that going. You know, it requires money. And so, so anybody that so inclined and you want to support local
that's
music.
That's a good one to support.
You want to support that venue because it is, I think, at that stage in the Blue Room is probably the best music venue in town.
Oh, amen. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I got to perform with him when he had his original release.
Yeah, I saw that when you guys performed together.
What a cool stage to stand on and perform.
I lost my voice that day. I had allergies, and I can't believe it. Of all the days to lose your voice, I'll never forget that one. It was such a great moment in time, and all those people came out. But here I'm like singing like stressing. It was
Scott, do you know if they're going to reschedule that show you were talking about there?
Yes, the Mitten is it is on for May, I believe, again already, and we were going to do a reboot of it in November.
Boy, I don't know if by May,
but I don't think
going to be able
to. Even May's a push.
Yeah, I was living in Ann Arbor at the time when I first saw the list of people playing at it, and I thought
we were going to bring your buddy George up here.
Actually,
because when I did a show with George, I suggested him to Jeff and Mike, and Jeff actually does all the booking, and Jeff comes to me for help from artists around the state, and I said you need to bring George back home for a show.
Oh, sure.
So that was on the agenda, you know.
Yeah, I saw that lineup, and it was. I think you had the Ragbirds on it.
Yeah. Well, that was the original idea, you know, and
I'll bet you get pushed back to like November.
Well, I'm thinking it might even be next year. It might be another year and a half away. So
and they might be able to do some things outdoors.
True.
Yeah,
you've got the brand new stage there at Winona Park.
Last summer, I at least got to see Eric and John perform twice last summer because of the outdoor venues. Anyway, it's time to really make use of those if we can't get the other stuff going.
I did get booked twice for Kevin's doing Brooklyn Boys again, so we're going back in March, starting up in March.
It's just going to be people just have to be mindful of social distancing out there, you know, and wear your mask and just be smart.
I think also Larry's doing a birthday show. Paul called me up last week. Paul Cook, Larry McCreary's manager, for those of you out there, and he says they're doing an Arbiter Hall show for Larry's birthday. Everybody's getting temp checked at when they come in, masked up, and then you go to your table and you're free. But the tables are spread out throughout the Arbiter above the governor's quarters there.
Well, good.
And
I hope it works for him.
61 this year.
Is he really?
Yep. Him and Warren Haynes were born one day apart from each other, and they're both 61 this year. Thanks, y'all. Thank you, Gary, for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me.
We're going to do this again, I'm sure. We'll have some more podcasts with themes, and we might even just do another talk about music like this turned into quite a bit with the added venue thing, and maybe even radio stations we can do it. And just a heads up that we did get a confirmation that the Mitten Music Fest is going to be next May 2022. And the Larry McCray show has been moved to May 1st, and that is official. The tickets are on sale right now. And again, we want to thank Gary Asel for showing up and giving us some of the detail and depth into our venues, concerts, fests, and clubs and dances episode. And we want to thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to post to our Facebook page your photos and memories and videos anything that you can dig up in the basement on some of these great past venues and stories that we have in our podcasts. And until next week, we will talk to you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in. Additionally, Dr. J can be reached at MichiganRock'n'RollLegends.com. Sir Fred can be hit up at FredRife.com. And Scott through ScottBakerMusic.com. You can also search Michigan Music History Podcast on Facebook and YouTube. You've been listening to the MMHP in the 989. From all of us at the podcast, we want